Thank you, Lord Link, for that raid. It's pretty bright and early, but just need to slap my face a couple times, and I'll be good. I'll be good to go. Woof. Looks like I have to move this just slightly. Unfortunately, to get the teams to show up all fancy schmancy like this requires the newest overlay. That's the only thing. That is the only thing that's good about the new overlay. God. I hate it. I hate it so much. I hate that that is so important to all tournament organizers and to teams that they have to have their logo. It makes sense, but I hate that it's so important, and this is the only overlay that lets it happen. Jesus. Anyways, my complaints aside. In the top right, we have the blue Protoss Zest. In the bottom left, it is INnoVation. So first, it's this best of 5, then it's Zest versus Bunny, then it's INnoVation versus Bunny. Top 2 advance into the DreamHack Masters season finals, which, you know, happens 5-6 weeks from now? Something along those lines, because first we play through the groups of, you know, North America, Europe, China, Latin America, the rest of them, right? And then we play into the tournament, then those guys win, and then we get the season finals. The same thing is kind of happening in GSL, but clearly there is a very different order when it comes to GSL, and a very different time when it comes to GSL. So they're usually done first with their season. They've already determined, you know, the top 8 players of that particular season, and thus we have this play-in where you can't have 8 players. You have to get up to 6, which is kind of a weird number. So some of you might be asking, well, okay, so you have to get to top 6, but there's only 3 people here today out of the round of 8. What happened here? Hurricane didn't want to play these. Hurricane actually just forfeited his spot, and they didn't, you know, the conundrum of determining who amongst the round of 16 would replace him would be way too much work, and I don't think it would ever be fair. You'd have to have like a round of 16 battle royale, and then into who places the bottom 4 guys, the bottom 3 guys of the round of 8. That doesn't make any sense. So they just do a round robin as opposed to 2 best of 5s, which is what they've done previously. Now it's 3 best of 5, so we get more StarCraft actually with this particular format. But anyways, hopefully you guys followed that along. All right, Mac Descent, thank you for the 16 months. Mornings, EG, stopping before heading to bed. Oh, good night. And then Humidifier, thank you for that Prime sub. Let's change this up. Yeah, there we go. So best of 5. Fresh series. Now, what has happened in this particular TVP on Jagannatha? Fairly standard stuff. INnoVation has gone into a 2-1 setup. So that was into the factory, then the additional barracks, no stopover on the starport production. Not yet anyways. So that's a decent amount of bio, but then you also get kind of the safety of the factory. In this case, the Cyclone. Into the tanks, if it was going to be an actual blink aggressive build, tanks would be very helpful. We all know that goes, but it's not actually any type of 4-gate, not even 3-gate. We do have just a very macro-oriented 2-gate blink build from Zest. I mean, this is Zest bread and butter. He loves the gateway styles. He loves blink charge. And I love copying him doing this. So I am always happy to cast Zest. It is one of the reasons he's my favorite player, is because I like to mimic his style when I play the occasional macro game. You know what I'm saying? INnoVation was the same exact way back when I was hardcore macro. I just wanted to do exactly the same build he was doing. But to be honest, as far as who has the more fun, I do think it is the Protoss when you play like a Zest versus a guy like INnoVation. INnoVation is just prepping, setting up. Both of them are really. But then the Stalkers, I think, are a little more dynamic. INnoVation can do this little push. He is going to do this little push. And the Stalker is having to blink back and control the push. I think is a lot more entertaining. But this is more than just a push, my dude. No Starport 5 ever. The SCVs have been pulled. 2 base all in it is from INnoVation. He's really changing things up. I don't know if Zest is expecting it, but Zest has already gotten a couple of things that are really nice. So he's grabbed a couple of Marines. That's great. But then more so that he actually has a couple of extra gateways, and extra gateways are on the way. And Immortal was already building. He chronos that out. It'll at least be here. But the thing he doesn't have, and what he really needs, is a shield battery. That thing is building, and it's only one of them. The pylon also super vulnerable. Zest is going to be losing a good amount of production. Gateway and Robo going down, and still really no other shield batteries to work with. And that seems like a pretty important detail. However, the Stalkers are still trying their best to stop the reinforcements, but only down to 3 of them. They can't actually take out the tank without losing 2 of their lives. A pretty hefty trade at this point, since Zest is losing production. He is starting to lose his economy, and Immortal comes in from the backside, but he's going to get blasted apart. The SCV repair a little too good. Finally, the Stalkers on top of the tanks, though, finally ripped them apart, and we're down to just Marines, and Zest is actually going to hold this. I mean, not exactly with ease, because he lost 19 probes, but he has 3 Nexus. So, and he has a gigantic army left over. So many Stalkers are left over that I actually got to say, this was so much easier than I thought it was going to be. INnoVation having to now size up, did he do enough damage, kind of play this out or not, is one of those things where it's like, calling it all in was not wrong as far as StarCraft 2 terms go, but you know, if this was poker, the game would be over. But it's not. So the game is like, well, I mean, kind of, you know, Zest is down 8 workers, but 3 base, okay, all right. I do think INnoVation would have a straight up lead if he actually managed to cancel this Nexus, no question about it, or kill it rather. But he didn't. He got low, but he didn't kill it. So a lot of probes go down. But that is something that Zest actually has the ability to remake rather quickly, since his Stalker count remains kind of large. He's at 12, then he just warped in 3 centuries. The safety for the net, like the 30 seconds, the minute after that engagement fell apart, when INnoVation actually pushed this back, or had to pull back rather, is that time where you're actually going to rebuild your probes rather quickly. So by the time the Terran player is like, okay, I'm going to resaturate my natural, you know, it happens fairly quickly for them, because he did pull back some SCVs, I think, that he didn't end up using. And his 3rd CC actually gets on location. The Protoss is actually taking that slight lead again. And while 2 worker lead for Protoss is actually not enough to put them in a good economic zone, it is something certainly to work with. And then we can talk about how the Stalkers can be used offensively on that map to really start taking, you know, small victories. And then we can also talk about how Charge might be able to get a good surround on the tanks, do some Warp Prism harassment maybe. That Warp Prism harassment will be difficult to do since the Robo died and was not rebuilt, so I don't know about that one. Never mind about the Robo, never mind about the Warp Prism. This is a very interesting game, but when all is said and done, INnoVation does seem to have done enough damage. His supply is starting to really snowball, and Zest is really banking on a good engagement to let him actually get to a 4th base. He needs a really good engagement coming up, and I think it's possible he gets one, but it just is more unlikely. That supply is not looking so hot. The storms, not as great versus professionals when they're all alone like this than they are maybe in like Diamond League or something like that. But oh, the storms be so juicy right here, right now. Oh my god, the force fields could come down. Oh my god, the storms! Holy shit, I take back everything I said. Oh my god. Oh my god. All right, well, that happened. INnoVation coming into that engagement with 20 more supply, a 3rd CC, and he brings the SEDs, he all-ins. I mean, he was up 20 supply, so it's like, it doesn't feel like it's a terrible idea. But there is one particular thing that Storm is very good at dealing with. It is SCV all-ins. Because it kills the SCV super quickly. They don't waste shots like Colossus do or Disruptors would if they tried to hit the SCVs. They hit everything. They hit everything. I guess Disruptor is a little less. I mean, Disruptors kind of depends on how big the hit is, right? But certainly Colossus, the idea with the SCV pool is that the Colossus are going to waste shots on them and not kill them particularly quickly. Two-shot them, right? But that's a big deal when you're rushing them. And then Storm doesn't have the same problem. If it hits the army, it hits everything underneath the Storm, doesn't waste its shots. It also, because it is so effective, it really forces the Terran to reconsider the Blitz. I mean, they bring tanks. It's not exactly just like a all-in go this very second, but it is more so when you pull the SCVs. You gotta go, you gotta get on top of their production, you gotta hit them in the face, get them into a corner. And the Storm really puts you in a weird position where you're like, well, it's kind of what I was hoping to do, but then I gotta respect the Storm, so shit, now what I do? And INnoVation just was like, not gonna respect the Storm. Did the Colossus confuse him? Did he, it was a, true all-in, not just in build or spirit, but also the fact that he went up a ramp into 4 storms. Ah, God. Alright, bottom right we have Zest, DPG. The top left is the Red Terran INnoVation for Kaisi Gaming, and it is Romanticide. I mean, I should feel kind of validated by my whole spiel about the Protoss having a really, a decent opportunity to come back. I didn't realize it was going to be so one-sided at the end, though. I don't think it should have been. If INnoVation had sized up the storms and been like, you know what, maybe I can try a different pathway, it might not be as one-sided, but it does seem like inevitably the storms would have been enough, just because they would have bought time, But then INnoVation, you could argue, why pull the SCVs the second time around? Why not play out the long game and just kind of posture with your supply and use your really good SCV count on 3 bases to just play it out, Even if Zest realizes that INnoVation's playing a macro game and goes, okay, let's flip the switch, let's actually go offensive with my new Storm technology. Keep in mind that he doesn't have a robo, so no Warp Prism to support that idea of an attack. And then Storm, it really is like it's most effective, the most effective in professional games against an SCV pool. That is where it is going to look like super, super, super good. But my brain is kind of foggy right now, and I didn't really set that up quite well. But now you guys see how effective it can be. But then, like, it's also... Where was I going? That if you try to go across the map against a Terran player who actually knows, like, how to dodge, how to get a good economy, how to build a lot of Marauders, and you try to engage into them when they're either dropping you or tracking your army, that confused me so much. Oh my god. The Adept shaded out as he blocked off. Wow, okay, alright. Thank you so much. Anyways, and then the Storm arrives at the Terran base, and it might get a couple of juicy shots. It might, but by that point, the Terrans sieged up with their tanks. They're spread out with their bio. They obviously are going to have more reinforcements faster when the Protoss especially doesn't have a Warp Prism. And it's not so bad. It's not. But if you're going to pull the SCVs, if you're going to make yourself committed, then it's going to be pretty bad against Storm. Zest playing ultimately a really beautiful game with the defense of the first SCV pool. Do you think it could have gone way, way, way worse, considering what situation he had found himself in so quickly, not having a shield battery, not having protection over his production? But the follow-up, I I don't know. I can't believe how effective that was. So, second game, Zest, true to form. It's gonna go for Blink, gonna go for a second gateway, gonna go for a third Nexus. INnoVation, known for his macro, we all know also can be known for his visible frustrations in certain matchups when he just isn't feeling it, when he maybe is a little convinced that a race is overpowered despite shockingly high win rates. We know that he can sometimes look a little impatient. And I don't know if that was really what described last game, but if this were to, like, let's really just go into the future, if this turned into a 3-0 and INnoVation, like, bombs out, I do think that there is a chance that he just doesn't like TVP right now, if he's going to continue all-inning. But that's rough to just base that off of one game, right? That one game, INnoVation, the first game of a series, tries to be more aggressive than his persona usually lets on, and it doesn't work. But it actually had a pretty good chance. What am I dropped from INnoVation into a fast third CC? Certainly faster than last game's. Means that, yeah, okay, we're gonna have some decent macro to macro. INnoVation's not too eager to get this series over with, or this particular game over with. What of mine is dodged out, cleaned up, no armory builds from INnoVation. The main base should be something similar. Maybe the medevac can escape. It does go just hide in the corner. Beep boop beep boop boop beep 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 boop 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 boop. He's gonna continue microing this, what of mine. Zest is like, stop it. There you go. Oh, he actually blinks too quickly and takes shield damage, which doesn't matter, but it's funny to see that. The micro there was too intense. And INnoVation gets a little bit of scouting and really not a whole lot of harassment, but he did actually force the probes to be pulled for a decent amount of time there. So not bad. About what you would expect against a guy like Zest to get that damage done. You don't expect very much more. And then INnoVation get out on his barracks. Third CC can be on location. INnoVation's only down about 11 workers, which with all the mules coming down is really not that bad. I'd show you the numbers, but all I can show you is occasional arrows popping up because this overlay is dumb and stupid and I hate it. I know I could press this button, but I still stand by it. I'd rather see the number too. I'd also rather see text, you know? The argument against text is that if you're trying to introduce someone who's not an English speaker, who like can't read the English there, won't know what it says. My counter argument to that is that if you're showing someone who doesn't really know StarCraft, I mean, they're not gonna know what the fuck this means either. I'm not convinced by that. A little bit of Warp Prism harassment is really concerning for the Terran. It's not exactly surprising when someone opens up the way that Zest has and isn't being all in, that they would use their robo to build a Warp Prism and go harass you. But it is just really annoying. If you had to face a Protoss who did this build without the Warp Prism, you'd take that Protoss. Because the Warp Prism might not be doing very much. INnoVation might defend it perfectly, but it is constantly going to be a thorn in his side. Is it going to harass me? Is it going for the main, natural, third? Is it going to be a part of a gigantic attack at the front? All things INnoVation has to worry about. INnoVation also once again has to worry about Storm. That scan reveals High Templars still in High Templar form, which means that it's going to be Storm. And now, in this particular game, we get to see, is Storm actually that good as last game made it? And the answer should be no. It should be no. This is when the professional Terrans actually split, they dodge, they focus fire, their macro, you know, kind of carries them over past the Storm's super effectiveness. You only have 20 Marines and the Storm hits you, you are pretty screwed. But INnoVation's not going to only have 20 Marines. Actually, his macro looking pretty damn strong. His defense so far looking very strong. Good recall here from Zest. Perhaps realizing that that army was going to come back. It had already killed my Nexus, so where else is it going to go? Raven used for some Predator harassment's nice. 7 probes go down. A couple of Zealots, maybe, even? 9 probes in total. It's focus firing. Auditory. Towards the end there. But so far, so good. INnoVation's still holding on to a 40 supply lead, and of course, this could be made up with Splash. But Storm can be difficult to call it consistent Splash, even when it's in a Warp Prism. But yes, the Warp Prism 100% makes it so much better. So that Warp Prism back on the defensive, back just ferrying the High Templars, does get a lot of power to the Storm, to the defense. And Zest is trying to use the chokes while he can. INnoVation's going to respect that. He doesn't have to push the issue. He doesn't have to show off his micro and his splits, and it would be very dangerous for him to do that anyways. But what he can do is just show that he has a gigantic army, do a little bit of a drop here. I love the Widow Mine taking on a lot of Zealots, and then smoothly go into Ghosts. And when Ghosts are out, then everyone can agree High Templars really start to look stupid. Even when they're in the Warp Prism, if there's enough Ghosts, you want to usually be on a second home splash. One Storm even whiffing and doing more damage to the Protoss. Stalker's actually getting quite injured. The Storm plus the 2 tanks really far away. Another Storm hits Ghosts, but, Medivacs will heal them up. So far, Storm's not looking very good. Zest is going to need a lot more of his regular ground army to take this on. And he's coming in now. He's going to try and save this 4th Nexus, which he absolutely will. And that was a good opportunity for a Storm, but INnoVation picks up, saves about half of the army that went through there, and is going to back away into the safety of his Storm, the safety of his 2-2 going to finish. The EMP upgrade is on the way. His 4th base just finished. Zest might have just taken a supply lead here and saved his 4th Nexus. It's low, but it's alive. But it's still worrying that he's only on this composition, and it looks like he even lost his Warp Prism. Ugh. I didn't even notice INnoVation sniped that down. Damn. I'm off my game. More auto turret harassment. This is a pretty brutal map, just you can't take care of the corners. And there's even a sliver through this side if they're not going to be paying attention to you. So this Raven is going to be really annoying. Not quite as bad as having a Warp Prism threatening a dozen Zealot Warpins into your base, but still pretty bad. There's nothing that Zest can do about it. So he just takes more economic damage. And now INnoVation, yes, he's done 20 supply, but those EMPs are going to absolutely wreck face. His upgrades are going to be fantastic. It's 2-2 versus just 2. It's getting a little awkward as INnoVation realizes, or did not realize, where the Protoss army was, but can he hold on? EMP's already hitting the sentries, hitting a High Templar, trying to hit the High Templars coming out of the Warp Prism. One will manage to find a Storm, but not a second one. The Archons have also mostly disappeared. The Planetary is finishing. INnoVation trying his best to hold on. The Planetary is actually a bit of a timer. Is it going to go down or is it going to finish? SCV's not repairing. It's only going to get a couple of shots off, and the Bio army was forced to retreat entirely away from it. Uh-oh. Zest maybe pushing at the most crucial time before INnoVation could match the supply. He had the technology, he had the upgrades, but the supply wasn't quite there. The Planetary wasn't quite done. That Planetary being done for that engagement would have been so different. That engagement was kind of a long engagement. There would have been so many shots from the Planetary. But now INnoVation has to seriously consider how he's going to play out the rest of this game. He needs to get maxed, and he needs to have at least the idea of what could come next, which might be Colossus. Actually, Zest not bothering to move on. He's continuing to upgrade one upgrade at a time. So now he's got 2-1 against the oncoming 3-3 of the Terran. I still feel like this is an army. I mean, Zest kind of does this, though. Like, Zest will typically, not typically, but has famously banked 2,000 minerals, 2,000 gas, and still managed to come back in a game. But playing just entirely on this Gateway army without, double upgrade, just single upgrade. Only with Storm as a splash and just using the sheer amount of units he can buy to bully INnoVation. I mean, this is a Zest special. But is it going to work out when INnoVation's maxed out when he has 3-3? I don't know about that. A couple of Storms actually hitting. So a lot of the tanks, though, and the EMPs. Oh, wow, the EMPs were fucking good right there. Zest, this is the weakness of his army, especially if he's going to force it through a couple of chokes into the EMPs, into the tanks. Those Storms didn't actually hit the units they were supposed to be honest. I mean, it was a good concave for the Terrans, so the Storms were ever going to be the biggest Storms ever. But they also kind of hit, like, the top side, like a fourth of the Terran army, and a couple of tanks more so than anything else. And just the EMPs, the other side of things, the splash You know, EMPs take away energy, they take away shields, but that is still damage. The splash damage, then we'll call it, from the ghosts, when you're all choked up, is just, I mean, that's what can happen. Thank you, INnoVation, for showing how Zest's army can be weak. A couple of disruptors there might have given Zest the opportunity to at least say, okay, this isn't working, I'm going to back away. But instead, with the army that he had, he was fully committed. Now we got ourselves kind of a pseudo base trade. INnoVation's going to be forced to cancel this fourth. He's building up on his high ground, however. Oh my god, the nasty tease. What the Zest? Are you like a Masters player here? This is such a Masters player ladder move, honestly. DT Blink could also finish before we got into additional splash. Are you kidding me, Zest? The DTs do get scanned, but then three Archons come in. That's a pretty good deal. INnoVation is going to go to the high ground, but he doesn't have much more. No Woodamines to help against the charge lots, but INnoVation's also wrecking through Zest's base. The production's going to go down. The DT's going to go down. Can Zest actually get to that +3 weapons? Maybe. INnoVation's not paying attention because he is going back on this side of the map defending, but it looks like Zest sizes up the situation, realizes there's not really a lot to do in this game, and taps out. GG. INnoVation brings it back to the 1-1 score. That's more so what we want to see. I honestly don't know who to cheer for. These have historically been my two favorite players. Can't tell which cat's in the background. It's probably Nixie. No, she's chilling on the floor. Cat sheet at 4 AM might be a bit unwelcome. It's more just cat sheets are hard to do when I'm casting. Thank you for being considerate. Pig has randomly joined in here.
If I cast this, I need to turn the stream off and then turn it back on right away. Up to you guys if you want to do that or not.
I was gonna say if he wants to cast, he does have to put it on delay. Seems like he's talking to his stream about it. Top left of the map Lightshade, we have INnoVation. In the bottom right, we have Zest. The amount of commentators that do not follow the bureaucracy. Don't sign up. They just show up. It's too damn high. What am I thinking of? Oh, I'm thinking of Incredibles, where the short like boss guy of Mr. Incredible is like they're violating the bureaucracy. I would never feel comfortable doing that, I don't think. It should, though. They should. Well, I think the thanks should really go to maybe ESL for actually coordinating this. It's pretty cool that they're letting people commentate it as opposed to just doing it like 1 or 2 people. It's pretty much just how many observer slots they have, and as long as they have observer slots, they're fine with people casting. Cannot be the rules of every tournament though. Some tournaments, especially in the past, especially with Korean players, would be like, you know, we want as few observers as possible. Now, depending on how far back in the past, it actually made a lot of sense because, I mean, the more we go on in life, I guess, the more technology gets better, the better internet gets, hopefully. But more so just that there was a, you know, if anyone would lag a little bit as an observer, the players would feel it, like 1-to-1. It was like, if you lagged for a second, the players would be like, what's going on? What's going on? And then at some point, I think for Legacy of the Void, so, you know, 5 years ago, they actually made it better so that when observers lag, they actually have to, like, lag out almost, if not actually on their screen, you know, get the pop-up that you're lagging out before the players feel it. So this was especially important too because for a long time, a lot of people had problems with the Korean server. It wasn't anything that they could fix. It wasn't anything that Blizzard was eager to fix. It just was the way of things. Ooh, nice catching that Reaper. So if they had to cast Korea and then they knew they were going to lag and stutter and whatnot, they pretty much just sat there crossing their fingers hoping that the players wouldn't be interrupted. We actually have a little bit more of a tussle than I expected, so the Reaper goes down, and that is a decent amount of extra DPS. That's the grenade, not here against the triple adept pressure. INnoVation had a Hellion, which, you know, does help, but it was trapped, it was taken down. And INnoVation did try to pull SCVs. That's why 2 of them were dead, well, including the ones that tried to build a bunker. But it wasn't enough DPS. Now, INnoVation will be able to push this back. That was a matter of time. It's not like Zest has a huge follow-up coming here. But this was a decent amount of damage. Armor units were lost for INnoVation. Scouting was kind of done for Zest. SCVs were lost. Lost time on that natural. You did have to stop building SCVs for a while. And then Zest isn't even done. He just took down more Marines with 2 Adepts. One of them barely alive. Still has the ability to take down at least like 1 more Marine, but maybe that's a little too, that just show off at that point. Like, you don't want to risk that. That'd be silly. So I like that Zest pulls back when he does, but he really got maximum amount of damage done with the Adepts. What am I drop is happening, go right into the Phoenix. And the Adepts were one thing, like that sucked, that feels bad, man. But then to have your What am I drop found by the Stargate units, like, that's a real kick in the nuts. Ooh. Oh, Zest. Making a mistake. I did not think. Oh, whoa. Okay, Zest making a couple of mistakes back to back. INnoVation now feeling a lot better about this game, even though he ultimately loses the entire Widowmine drop. The medevac was cleaned up. You should feel a lot better about this game. You just killed a couple of Phoenix, you killed a Stalker. These 3 Widowmines did what they... I mean, they didn't kill any probes, I suppose, but I would still say the amount of army units they killed makes you feel better, because there is a pretty good chance that the only thing they would kill was 3 probes. But even with that, even though the Widowmines did something rather than nothing, Zest is still on 3 bases, been on there for a little while. Still has some Phoenixes to try and take some map control. Isn't really going to do any much pressure with them though, since losing 2, you know, he would have had 6 right now. He might have stopped at 5, but he would have had 5 or 6 Phoenix, and that's you know, he is going into the main. Now having to wait for another Phoenix, and then inevitably giving the Invasion more time to actually get units. Cyclones are already out, Marines are building. Well, the Phoenix are going to, well, they're still going to be able to be on the map. They can still help protect. If this was Colossus, they'd help protect the Colossus. It's not Colossus, though. It is Charge, and that's not really that surprising. If this was a European Protoss, I'd be a little more keen. I'd be like, oh, okay, I think this is, amongst like a European Protoss, the split between Phoenix Colossus and Phoenix Charge is like, I don't know, I want to say like 70-30 or something like that, honestly. Like, they're usually the more macro-oriented guys with that particular style. But when the Charge comes out, it is worth noting how aggressive it can be. The trickiness of it, as far as dealing with it as a Terran player in the mid game, you really need to identify that it's Charge, and maybe consider not pushing as aggressively as you once thought you would. And since Zest is all about that gateway pressure in the mid game, this is why it's not a surprise. It's not like a gigantic leap here for INnoVation just to assume it's Charge. And you got any like direct scouting on that? Not so much. Kinda got in the natural once with the Widow Mine, but oh, Charge isn't done. Ooh, INnoVation. Maybe hitting a decent enough timing that this could trade out. Okay, all right. This could have gone way worse. This could have gone way worse. If maybe Zest should not have engaged where he did. That might have been another whoopsie daisy from Zest, because imagine if he buys another 5 seconds just by waiting right here. It's not like, I mean, yeah, I think he just should have waited. Hindsight, right? But Charge wasn't done. Upgrades weren't done, and no shield battery to work with, which is fine if you're pretty sure you're going to win the engagement, because then you can chase everything down, and when you win an engagement with this composition, you really win an engagement, as seen here. This is what Zest wanted to do with the first engagement. This is looking a lot better. The Phoenix tried to drag the Widow Mines over the bio. The Zealots were too much to handle. You know, he picked up all the units that he could, any important units of the Phoenix. That's what you want. And you want to be able to chase him down, too. That was what you wanted. So, first engagement, meh. Second engagement, a lot better. Third Nexus is now all types of saturated. Fourth base is also saturated. Zest is at 80 probes. And with that defense kind of slash offense, he did get scary amounts into INnoVation's third base on INnoVation's side of the map. So INnoVation's like, oh, gotta be a little careful here. That means that Zest has freedom to go into Colossus. There is no midpoint transition that INnoVation is hitting that could be scary for someone who's invested however much it costs to build 2 Colossus in a robotics bay. How much would that be? How much is a Colossus? I haven't thought about that in a long time. But you get the point. It's not going to be hit. So 3 Colossus, War Prism, maybe even some more robo units after that before INnoVation really has a decent attack. And INnoVation is in a bit of trouble. Phoenix numbers are still pretty outrageous. They took a lot of damage, but they're not dead. And they're even harassing at 10 minutes here. No missile turret at the third base means that a lot of SCVs will go down. The Phoenix, though, realizing, hey, where's the army? Gonna get recalled back. Are they necessary for the defense? I don't think they are. They could have kept killing SCVs. But this is the safer play, and you know what? He's gonna be able to counter and win, I feel, anyways. Like, the War Prism is out. His third Colossus is joining up. His +2 is finishing. The only thing that might be keeping him at home are the cannon, or the Widow Mines, but it gets taken care of with the Observer, and now Zest. Now he can go. Now he can win. Don't really see a way out of this for INnoVation. He's not got his upgrades yet, but even if he did, he's at a 60 supply deficit. He's barely got no splash. His Viking numbers would have been okay if it was only the Colossus, but the Phoenix are there soaking up all the shots, and Zest kind of just A moves the victory. He had taken such a colossal lead. Now to Zest up 2-1. Some cat's doing something. Nixie, what are you doing? Just having fun with my cat tree. Legacy of the Void is turning 6 this year. Yep. Came out in 2015. We're all old. Everyone. Oh. Zest gonna be an aggressive boy. His adepts did so well last game. Why not do something similar again? In the bottom left, as the right Terran, we have Kaizi INnoVation. And in the top right, going for 12 Pylon, 13 Gateway, it is DPG's Zest. INnoVation pushing into something that he wasn't really sure what was going on. 100%. I mean, that's gonna punish you. It wasn't as punishing right off the bat as it could have been, because charge wasn't quite done, so it was a little awkward for the first engagement. Ultimately, still happened that INnoVation tried pushing twice and was rebuffed and wasn't getting anything done. He was exchanging army units for army units, where Zest was pretty happy to do so to an extent because his economy was really outrageous. But it did all start with the opening. It did. The Widow Mines tried the best to get revenge. They killed a couple of army units. That's nice. That's at least something. But when you lost so much time in the natural and so many Marines early on, you know it's going to be a bad time. So the obligation to do something increases, and then the more that you're obligated to do something, the less you can be flexible in StarCraft. The more it can suck when Zest kind of wants you to be aggressive, kind of wants you to overstep, so that he can swallow you whole with the amount of Phoenix and charge outs he give me. Now Zest goes for that early pylon, the early gateway, but then doesn't put him in a super forward position. We're not on like Becca Industries, which is a super small map. It is still going to be a faster adept, and I think he was just thinking like adept pressure was good last time, let's do it again. But INnoVation also doing something kind of aggressive, so a big change up from last game. No one racks expand into the attempted bunker. Oh no, I didn't finish it. Oh no, it dead. Like he's gonna have multiple Reapers and a much faster factory. Now, I mean, when two players are aggressive, then one player can decide to be the defender. Depending on the build they chose, that's either an okay idea or a good idea, I think. Maybe sometimes it's a bad idea, but in this particular game, Zest, he's got the ability to send out an adept in an aggressive sense, as well as have an adept in the defensive sense. And thus has already kind of handled it, you know, the 2 adept versus 2 Reaper, 1 adept takes out 1 Reaper. Zest gets the benefit here. It's INnoVation who's forced to play a more defensive game. In fact, he already lost his aggressive Reaper. And usually a Reaper scouting at least is like a job well done. Ooh, ooh. Oh, no. Can't get past it. Yeah, this game no. Hellion tries to help out, kills one of the adepts, but another Reaper's going to fall. Second Hellion is here, but I just think it's a bit more of an awkward start for INnoVation. Good focus fire. SCV gets taken down, but another one's already there. So the command center seamlessly transitioning. The Hellion barely not going down. Some really good last minute micro from INnoVation. But it feels like it's a little more awkward for him. Zest has an 8 worker lead, as that natural is not yet done, so not yet in orbital. So that's what I'm going to point to for the most part to say that Zest is taking the lead. Blink is on the way. No wall off against these Hellions is a bit concerning. If INnoVation could grab even 4 probes, that would be pretty big. But with 3 Stalkers already there, with only 2 Hellenes, not 3, yeah, he's not even gonna try. So, how's INnoVation gonna play this out? So we got a tech labs, we have a reactor. Second barracks is now on the way. I'm gonna go for more Raven harassment. If he adds on a Banshee and Cloak, then we're expecting another SCV pool. Actually, I think he's gonna just swap off the starport by the looks of it. He's not even gonna use it. Okay, well, then I don't expect an SCV pool. Third Nexus comes down for Zest as he somewhat seamlessly goes into his original plan. Reaper shenanigans aside, they really didn't get to be shenanigans. They got stopped short of being shenanigans. One of my drop does kill a couple of probes, but needs to do more. 2 Hellions get the scout, could get a free probe. Eh, something. Start adding up the tiny little differences. His INnoVation has started to come back a little bit on the worker count. Actually gets supply blocked. That's also Zest not quite using his chronos, getting his scout first and foremost, built a fairly, not even really a fast sentry to be honest, but he built a sentry. So the hallucination does the scouting where his robo and his observer can stay at home and then maybe go across the map. That hallucination is pretty much guaranteed scouting. Observer can be slow, can get caught by a Raven, and it is going to be a Raven. Just took a little while. And now gonna swap off, I guess. There we go. And now Zest, having that information, having the 3 Nexus, could actually chrono, triple chrono even, and try and get really far ahead. It seems like he's still holding on to the chrono. Still, maybe wait and just use it entirely on Storm and really have some of the fastest Storm you'll see amongst the professionals. Since, you know, considering that a lot of Protoss players out there are just not getting Storm at all. So that's a lot of gateway units. That's pretty quick Storm, but not any upgrades. Zest is kind of, he loves playing this kind of like walking the line between macro and dedicated. Where it's like, you don't get upgrades in a StarCraft 2 game that should be dedicated, that should only work up to a certain point. But then with his amount of units, because he gets like, you know, pretty quick expansions in some of his games, he gets a high probe count in a lot of his games, like then you're kind of like, well, he has so many units in surplus that the upgrades, assuming they don't even matter. Seemingly. They always matter, but, yeah. So Zest has secured the 3rd base saturation, 66 probes, INnoVation's 48 workers. INnoVation does not have a 3rd CC by the looks. Oh, he's building it right there. There it is. I'm blind. So he doesn't have it yet. He has built up his production first and foremost. It's done. It's cranking out a lot of units. And that's a fairly feisty army there. And behind this push, he can slap down his 3rd CC. He can get into his 5 barracks. And how well can this push do? Couldn't tell you where the armor supply is. There it is. It's actually looking really intimidating for INnoVation. Zest needs to buffer, needs to build up an army at this point. He actually hasn't built an army. And while Storm is done, you need something to actually usually kill the units that have been injured by that Storm. A lot of Stalkers being warped in. No Zealots quite yet. The High Templars are already having to use 2 Storms, was it? But still plenty left over. You got to feed back if the Raven decides to get feisty. Just 20 seconds later, we do have a closer armoring supply, and of course, this has the Defender's advantage. It's got shield battery overcharge, faster reinforcements, but this is a tricky spot to try and get through. Shield battery overcharge actually exclusively being used on an Archon. This is comical. Raven harassment in the main base going to take up a lot of the warp ends. This is looking really deadly. INnoVation trying to push through here. He knows he has an opportunity, but he's got to play it right against these Storms. Oh, not quite able to get that Archon. And that is it for the Storms by the looks of it. Uh-oh. Can he break it? The Zealots are coming in, but into Widow Mines. So they're getting popped off. Oh, good. No. The Zealots not looking as good as they possibly could, but more Zealots coming in. Maybe it'll do the trick. The tank's been taken down with the help of the Immortal. The focus fire from Zest, and there's even more focus fire as he pushes INnoVation entirely back. Takes down the Medivacs and wipes that sweat off his brow. That was a little concerning. but a good long time bought thanks to the ability to slap down some cautionary storms, the get away from me storms, the hissing, and then building up the zealot count. It was if there wasn't the extra 7 zealots coming in at the very last second, things could have changed. Things could have been the opposite of that. That could have been all the bio ripping the stalker to shreds. Or maybe even if like the Immortal hadn't actually grabbed this tank, the range was a little questionable, but it worked out. But Zest did have a lot of gateways. He did have a lot of zealots. They just responded to the auto turret in the main base. And now as Zest pushes that back, he can grab his 4th Nexus. Now, that 4th Nexus still isn't like... This isn't the most amazing economy for Zest. INnoVation's had his 3CC. He's getting his own 4th command center now. It's not like Zest is so far ahead in the economy. And maybe that's not super important if Zest has a bunch of upgrades and is working on additional... Oh, you gotta kill, not a cancel. Oh, painful. Well, that's really nice for Zest. But yeah, he doesn't actually have, again, a lot of those like long-term Protoss units or upgrades that we would consider as important if you're gonna try and play out this game to a fourth base. Zest supply looks really strong. But EMPs, 1-1 upgrades against 0-0, that could change it, forcing his way through a choke, getting hit by a Widow Mine. EMPs try to come down. They do hit the High Templars. I don't know if I got all of them. The War Prism's ferrying them around. SCs are going to have to be pulled. It looks like it did not get all of them. As another storm, 2 storms hit, 3 storms hit. And that is going to severely injure, if not kill, the Marauders. And then the Stalkers, the Immortals, the Zealots can take them on afterwards, or they should be able to. That is a very, very, very weak bio. And the upgrades are not mattering as much as you would want right now. The sheer number of units that Zest has is going to be able to push through. The Immortals are getting a little bit distracted. Maybe these last Marauders can like 300 this. No, they can't. GG. Zest is going to take 3-1. And I mean, I think with like a victory, you're pretty much assured to win. Is that how that works in a 3-man round robin? Like whoever loses both games obviously loses. Oh, Zest needs a break. He'll be facing Bunny next. So the admin is forcing him down to a 5-minute break. But that is still a break, so I'm gonna go get more water. They also have to do videos, so... BRB. I'm gonna put the BRB screen on. And we're back. Just in time. Vetoes have been done. Map is being made. Easy peasy. So, Zest versus Bunny. Starting off on Jagannatha. Zest apparently doesn't like Oxide. Vetoed it in both his PvTs. He doesn't like that he can't expand to 1 billion places. No, I don't know why he doesn't like it. Did the International announce that it's offline again? That's cool. Can't wait for the first offline StarCraft announcement. It's gonna be really exciting. And I'm gonna be so mad if I don't get to go. If another 5 commentators get to go to the first offline event, I'm gonna be so sad. We have no idea how they're gonna actually decide how many are gonna go. We didn't really get to see what was going to happen with the new overlords because COVID hit. Alright, Zest is ready. Brand new best of 5. In the bottom left is the blue. That's blue. Is the blue Terran. It is Team Envy's Bunny. And in the top right, we have the red Protoss DPG Zest. If Zest wins this best of 5 as well, he's definitely making it through. Congrats to him. If not, and Bunny wins, then we get to the final best of 5, which would be Bunny versus INnoVation. That's gonna happen, you know, regardless, but if it's like a 1-1-1 score, then it's gonna come down to the tiebreakers, which, to be honest, I don't remember what what order of tiebreakers matters. So some things to consider for tiebreakers is map score, like how many maps did it take for you to defeat your opponent, who you defeated. If you defeated the guy that you're tied with, then you win the overall score, right? And that's probably the 2 things that are most important, but most important, I'm gonna guess, is map score. But as I said, like, I've actually forgotten. So, mubby. I'm gonna try and quickly look it up as we have the opening starter builds. So, it is a 1-base build from Bunny, or he's certainly making it look like it. I haven't actually seen a professional Terran bamboozle the Protoss by going for Supply Depot, then Command Center. This doesn't really happen, but it is something that would bamboozle them. They would assume it's a factory coming down, which we still are assuming. The 100 gas just hasn't been taken, but it is it's interesting for sure. Bunny, he's gotten only 1 gas. You know, usually you do grab the gas by now. You're gonna one base it for a while, and oh my god, he's actually doing it. Oh my god, this is... Put it in the books, guys. It's actually happening. So Zest sees a supply depot, and 99% of the time, the second supply depot before the command center is attempted means that they have a factory on the way. They have a second gas. Now, the only way this is possible to do is that if you actually block out the probe. If the probe is like a super fast scout, and it gets in and sees no second gas, you can't, like, even if you gas first, the amount of money, the minerals that you have, just doesn't make sense to go factory then command center. It just doesn't. You have to wait so long on the gas intake. So, it made me question. He did make me question that fact, but no, that is still a fact, and he is just trying to pull the wool over Zest's eyes. So Zest, maybe he was planning on going for a Twilight Council technology this game, decides that a Stargate technology is going to cover some more bases against a potential one base. That's a fair call. It's not a terrible game that he's put himself in because he might have changed his mind, but it is very possible that Zest has changed his mind. In a case of a three-way tie, an additional round of best of three matches played. Well, there you go. There you go. So that's why I checked. So it's not the, round-robin group stage rules. That's where the map order and the who you defeated thing works out. But instead, they have a new rule for this particular three-group round-robin. Very unique situation since Hurricane did not want to play for it. Maybe he has a vacation set up. I don't know. But that means that if this is a 1-1-1 way tie, 1-1-1 three-way tie, there we go, then it is going to be an additional best of three. Well, it can't be a 1-1, it can't be a three-way tie. If it's a two-way tie, you get the picture, you know what I mean. Oracle coming in is not just beautiful for scouting against someone that you're like confused. You're like, okay, I don't know what they're getting, what type of one base is it? But in this case, actually grabs 6 SCVs, and the Oracle loses her life. But that's better than an Oracle usually does in this matchup. Usually it can get a scout plus 3, maybe 4 SCVs, but damn, it almost got 8. It almost got 8 SCVs. 2 of them are extremely weak. No follow-up Oracle, however, so it's not like those are going to die. But 6 is still pretty damn good. And the scouting that was done as well. Zest got in there and is like, wait a second, this isn't... What? What's going on? Technically he didn't see the command center, but he... I mean... The amount of production would tell you got a command center? Huh. I don't know. Zest, I mean, he is getting attacked. It's just not as fast as maybe he was expecting. Combat shields coming out very, very soon. Buffing up those Marines. The Void Rays might be a brilliant decision. Zest hasn't really gotten the perfect reaction just because it's been a little bit of a question mark. Until his Oracle got in, he wasn't quite sure what exactly was going to happen, what exactly was going to hit him. But he might still have the right stuff. Well, no, that ain't it. That ain't it. That ain't it. Zest might regret trying to do that. The overcharge has been used. He still has 4 shield batteries overall, though. And charge is about to finish. You know what? It's just all about, it's about buying time for charge. With charge only being 15 seconds away, that actually, I'm pretty sure will do the trick. Adepts actually shade past, and I like that a lot, because they can come back in, force the tanks to swivel around and be focus fired. So I really like the idea of the Adepts, but then they come back home anyways. But there's that charge. The Void Rays will pop on a tank easy. Easy peasy, there you go. Exactly. And then... I mean, the bunkers will also fall really quickly with the prismatic alignment, so there you go. Bunny's aggression is so far not working out. No, it's going to be a weird game from here on, because Bunny... No, Bunny's actually still dead. It's just weird because Zest, dedicated to a bunch of Stargate units, which, Void Rays aren't going to help the longer a TVP goes on. But he got charge, and Bunny does not start up Stim. So even though he's got like a second base, it's he built a couple extra SCVs, but I don't think there's actually an attempt to come back here. Bunny does tap out. Zest not phased enough by the opener. Not enough. There's a lot of things that could have been different. There's a lot of things that Bunny could have hoped for. Bunny could have hoped that Zest still went for Twilight Council because that is still an option. It's like, against someone who's one-basing you, the Twilight Council option is kind of the scariest one. When you start up Blink and you try and play out the regular game, but you add on like a second gateway, or you chrono out an Immortal. It's still a very scary option, but it is... Protoss players survive one-base builds with a Blink opener. But he might have been hoping for that. A Blink opener. And then charge wouldn't have been done. Honestly, I think he's hoping for only the Void Rays. If he knew it was going to be Stargate, he's hoping that it's only the Void Rays and then like a feeble amount of Adepts. Because charge isn't on the way. And then the Adepts are actually pretty good in the early and mid-game in those types of situations. But maybe... you know, not as good as charge lots, so... biggest one is probably that Bunny didn't want to deal with charge lots. It's pretty important that Zest went for them about as fast as possible, so he must have... yeah, he held off on building a ton of units to build very expensive Void Rays, and then get Twilight Council and charge as fast as possible. It was a very easy hold after charge was done. Who do I prefer amongst the 3 players? I mean, Bunny's really cool, but INnoVation and Zest will always be some of my favorite players. They've been my favorite players for so long. 5 a.m. cast, huh? Yep. Doesn't really feel that bad, actually. My brain is certainly... it feels too large for my skull right now, but not in a good way. But overall, it's not that bad. Oakley dokley then. Zest continues his domination in this matchup. In the top right of 2,000 atmospheres, it is Zest. In the bottom left is the blue Terran. We have Bunny, who tried to be a little trickster. One of the few times I can't actually think about any other time where we saw that, because that's why I said mark it down. I would have remembered being like, oh yeah, mark it down, this actually is happening. I think that was the first time that the whole building second supply depot thing as a false narrative actually happened. And I wish it had worked. I wish it was cooler. But to be honest, it looked really lame. Like, Zest had enough information getting the Oracle in there, because I was like a little uncertain when looking at the scouting as to whether or not you knew it was a natural command center. But I gotta figure that you do. A one-base version of that would have hit faster, right? Right? Like, that doesn't make sense. So anyways, but the Oracle, you know, whether it saw the command center or not, did see that there was no starport. Oh my god, Bunny. Calm down. Calm down, Bunny. Calm down. You know what? This was not worth it for Bunny. What? We're gonna... And we're gonna double check that in a second. But anyways, back to my supply depot thing. Zest knew that it was going to be dedicated because there was no starport. There was 3 barracks and a factory, and he didn't have to get a whole lot more information to know that he should be on the defensive. If nothing had come, then he would have had to been like, oh shit, I need to double check myself. But, you know, the push did come, and he had actually prepared for it so damn well with exactly the right units. Void Rays for the tanks and bunkers, charge lots to basically soak up all the damage tanks and bunkers are shooting. It worked out so damn well. This time around, Bunny is actually going to one base. And when you see an engineering bay block, it is, unless, well, not always indicative because we're not professionals, but professionally, it is always indicative of the fact that they're going to one base you. If Bunny did not go for a fast factory, that actually would have been another bamboozle. But it wasn't even just one engineering bay, it was 2. And it didn't even last that long, so... yeah. Bunny gets a couple of spikes. 4 probes were pulled to take care of it. But I think it's actually much better for the Protoss. I don't, like, maybe the math actually doesn't back me up on this, but just feeling-wise, alright? Just imagine that you're a Protoss player and you know these dastardly devil Terran players are gonna try and engineering bay block you. And you just see them not only do it, and you're like, okay, I'm on to you, I'm gonna pull my probes. You see them do it twice. Then you stop both engineering bays from getting healthy whatsoever, like they're still very low in the red. And you also kill the SCV. Wouldn't you feel really good as the Protoss player? I don't know, I would. That was a lot of committal. Had the engineering bay, had either engineering bay actually made it into like 200 health? Actually, how much health does the engineering bay have? If it had made it to like 25% completion, there we go, that's an easy way to say it, then I think it might have been worth for Bunny. But Zest actually didn't have to interrupt his build that much, even with his 4 probes pulled. So I don't know, I would feel nicer as the Protoss. Maybe this is all the wrong gut instinct, but that's what I'm going with. So Bunny gets a faster factory, but still gets a command center. Suddenly a cat just darted in and scared the shit out of me. Scared the shit out of poor Nixie too. Anyways, so he gets a faster factory, which means that he has a lot of factory units. He's got 4 Wood Mines, 2 Hellions, and the 4 Wood Mines are just boosting right over the natural. Whoa! Oh my goodness, pulling probes in Wood Mines is always so dangerous, but so far so good. 1 Wood Mine for 2 Wood Mines for 2 probes. And then, what, the Adepts? The Adept died. Hellions do get into the main base, but there is a shield battery, a really important shield battery, otherwise these 2 Hellions could have gotten a good 4 to 6 probes killed. Now, as it is, they're only going to get 1? They only got 1. Excellent defense from Zest so far, and he even almost got the medevac. If he had gotten the medevac, forget about it. Zest is in such a beautiful position. With the medevac alive, Bunny can, like, have like a slimmer of hope, but like alive is a really strong word for this medevac. It's not alive. It's gonna die. You can't do anything with it. Can he actually get by? No, not really. Zest is all over it, man. He's all over it. So Zest should feel really nice about this game. His 3rd Nexus have been planted down before the whole conundrum, the actions were happening, so you don't even have to worry. It just is building. You micro on your natural and main, and then that 3rd Nexus will finish up. Give you the option to produce 3 probes at a time. Bunny is only down 12 workers. We're down 10 workers right now. It's not the worst. His 3rd CC is over halfway done as well. So he might have delayed his natural a little bit with that factory opener, but he actually went to a pretty quick 3rd CC. So his economy maybe isn't the worst, but Zest is, again, just getting into the smoother build order, you know? He's having to react to Bunny to a degree, but really not to any good degree. It's like kind of swatting away shit, I can't speak. Swatting away flies. There we go. Third Nexus is already saturated. Once again, Zest going into the storm. Bunny should be very aware. Should have been watching the last series. He knows what's good for him. And Should also just have a lot of experience against Zest. The Korean scene is kind of small. You have a lot of the professionals playing against each other on the ladder with multiple accounts, to be fair, so maybe they don't know for sure it's you know, Zest, but Zest has a particular playstyle. So the fast storm should not be a surprise, but it is nonetheless kind of forcing a different way of playing. If Bunny, who actually does play in a lot of online tournaments, if he's used to a certain way of Protoss, which is into fast Colossus, into just double forge, something that Zest also has been a fan of in the past, then maybe he doesn't actually remember how to deal with Storm, but that's not giving him a lot of credit. I think Terran players remember how to deal with fast Storm. Zest is just really, really good and really, really like ballsy with it. So Warp Prism's out. Going to go for some harassment first and foremost. Then he recalls it to pick up his High Templar. Kind of know how it goes. We've seen it before. We're going to see it again. Bunny's upgrades are all finishing. His third CC is also just about saturated. Love the little wall he's got set up here. Bunny's scouting has been very limited, with his Widowmine drop being stuck up in the top right corner. So all he sees is that his opponent went for a blink opener. He's got a third gas, doesn't know about the other gases. Oh, no, he does actually. Oh, something got over here. So with the third base having gases as well, you know it's not going to be like just balls to the walls. Balls to the wall. Charge lots. And again, he should have been watching that last series. He should know about the storm. I say that, but and then there's no Ghost Academy, despite, you know, really kind of turtled up position here. So that's making me a little concerned. Zest might have prioritized Storm first and foremost, but he did also get a double forge. Faster than in some previous games, and I like this a lot. I think he's in such control of the game. Oh, the Storm drops happen. Always nice to see. Just one Zealot to kind of get the last hits on very injured SCVs. Love it. It's like the two Banelings and the two Lings or whatever it is. Medivacs heal those SCVs up, so further Storm drops will not be super effective. And a Viking is out, so the Warp Prism has to be recalled. But Zest is going to plan to do that anyways. He recalls at home to ferry run his High Templars. Ultimately a net gain, because nothing was lost. Well, the Zealot died. Sorry, Zealot. You're not really that important. Bunny's supply does look rather good, but his actual positioning in this game, the actual pacing of the game, I mean, it's not going to be over either way anytime soon. Zest, I don't think, can break a turtled Bunny here. But you know what? He's gonna try. Looks like he's gonna try. And Bunny doesn't quite have the most amazing army despite being maxed out. Oh my god. Oh, the Storm! Oh, that Storm was great, but the anti-missile is also fantastic. And Zest, just even with the good storms, he wasn't actually killing these units, and that's always kind of the thing about storms. You have to get so many storms to actually kill Marauders that are underneath the healing power of a medevac. It's unlikely to happen, so more so you get a storm, maybe two, and then the Immortal takes them out, the Zealots take them out, the Stalkers take them out, or something. And that just wasn't happening. Bunny keeps a very solid supply, despite having almost like a panic reaction, despite being awfully clumped up. Supply didn't really dip that much, but Zest is, it's not gonna stop. He's not the type of player to stop, alright? Widowmines do eventually pop off on the Zealots, but they clear up at least one of the tanks, trying to go for the second one. High Templar still looking for those juicy storms. Can they really be juicy enough? I don't know. Maybe. More Zealots come in from the north, actually, not even from the Warp Prism. More storms coming down. Another storm, not available. EMP finally comes into effect, but that Warp Prism's still alive. Charge out's still being made, and Zest is actually going to break Bunny. Bunny was so defensively set up. It was like he was reacting exactly like this, except for his lacking EMPs. They come in, I guess, too late. Ultimately, that could have been the deciding factor. If the EMPs were there from the get-go, maybe there's two less storms. Maybe the Immortals get their shields popped immediately and get focus fire down. The Zealots are less effective. You know, EMPs, very useful skill to have. And they weren't there until the last second. And I guess Bunny just loses. He's got a fourth base, turning into a planetary. Nah, it's gotta be an orbital because he lost his third. So that's not safe. And it's still not a good economy. Zest is charging after it anyways. That's gonna go down. GG. Zest is so funny. Nugget, get out of here. Ay, ay, ay. Who? Game 2? Game 3. Game 3 is on the way. Lightshade could be the last map. In the bottom right, he is Bunny. In the top left, looking kind of unbeatable in this matchup. It is Zest. It's totally dominating. Did really well against INnoVation, and is now doing very well against Bunny. Bunny sometimes is shooting himself in the foot. I mean, the first game, it's not really fair to say that he's shooting himself in the foot, because all these things that Bunny are doing, like, they could work out. They could be really confusing for Zest. They could really throw Zest off his game. They can force Zest to adapt to Bunny, which is really big tempo-wise and pacing-wise, and it just... There's a lot of coulds for Bunny and his kind of sneakiness, right? But nothing's panning out. So by shooting himself in the foot, I'm mostly just saying that Bunny is already behind from an early start. He's scouted too well. He's not doing any damage with an early game pressure. And Zest just kind of rides the wave from there. Last game, it really wasn't that clear cut. Bunny did a great job of turtling and he was maxed out. The one thing, though, is that Bunny didn't get into Ghosts particularly fast. And once you're saturated on 3 bases, it is definitely possible to get to Ghosts. Certainly it is. That will cut into your overall supply a little bit because they're kind of expensive. Ghost Academy, actual Ghost production, EMP upgrade to make them really, really, really good. But I would say that it would have been worth it. Bunny, disagrees. Waited a long time. Wanted a really high supply. And perhaps that is just Bunny not able to identify exactly when a guy like Zest will push into him. Maybe. Bunny's once again gone for an engineering bay block. That one was a little bit healthier than the last, but still Zest didn't really mess up his build order a whole ton to take care of it. And Bunny is going to go for just a 1 Rax expand. Which is kind of surprising with the engineering bay block in the current meta, I guess in like It's been 11 years of StarCraft 2. Engineering bay blocks have existed since the beginning. There's been times where it is just an engineering bay block into macro. For certain. But nowadays, it is kind of surprising that they don't go into a factory. The depth pressure gets taken out. Bunny gets the advantage there. Doesn't have to deal with the 2 adepts that could actually start to micro against him. And Zest apparently isn't done with the early game aggression. Not running any Twilight Council. No Robo, no Stargate. Actually a proxy pylon and 2 more gateways. This is a really big change up. Zest is about to see that it is in fact the command center. And there we go. The Adept Shade sees it. Adepts can't really do anything more against the amount of Marines. But the Adepts have gotten some good intel. They know that it was a 1-rax expanse. They know that that factory, if it's done, it's not yet produced a lot of units. And in this particular game, Zest doesn't know it, but Bunny didn't go for a factory. So Bunny trying to go for a little bit of perceived aggression into a little bit of greed, actually, might still end up getting punished. The Adepts are seeing still no tank, no Cyclone. The Stalker's gonna come in. They're gonna bully the Marines. As long as the Marines don't have stim, they can't really do anything against the range of the Stalkers. Now that's a lot of Marines, so you gotta be careful. I don't know exactly when Stim is gonna finish, but Adept is going to die. Second Adept dies. Stalker's still in charge. Still large and in charge. There's not much you can do against the range. More Stalkers come in. Bunny, I mean, with the first set of units, would have known that it was a dedicated attack. The second set of units should probably just lift his command center. He knows that Stim and combat shields are about to finish, but that's not a lot of bio for Bunny quite yet. Like he's ramping up. He will eventually have a good amount of bio and could severely punish Zest for what he's doing, but it's not there yet. This is a really important defense. Good focus fire from Zest. Take on the Marauders first and foremost. Stalkers are starting to bleed off. Another stim has to be used, but Zest's not going to take a very poor fight. He's even going to continue warping in, realizing that that is kind of, you know, it's a stim without medivacs. It's going to injure the units to try to retreat. A lot of units still die to his focus fire. He's still going to try and make this work. It can overextend, though. These Stalkers are supposed to be worse than stimmed bio units, but Bunny... forced to actually play his hand, to play his bio with Stim because he had to save his command center, might have been too early to it. He didn't have enough bio. Had he been able to wait 15, 20 more seconds, could have had 5 extra Marines, 2 extra Marauders, and that might have been the difference. It just wasn't. So that is the conclusion there. I mean, Zest is going to be making his way through. He doesn't need to pay attention to the last match. It's up to Inno and Bunny to play this out. Whoever wins, wins. Yeah. Yeah. Bunny did just get bullied. He did. Any extra bio units could have been the difference. Hindsight 2020, but Bunny probably should have just evacuated the natural as soon as he realized there was a proxy gateway. And, you know, a decent number of gateways. What you gonna do? I think he was probably, like, mentally defeated by that point. The last series is already underway. Well, not underway, but it's already getting started. Bunny versus INnoVation starting off on Lightshade. The winner of this gets to play in the DreamHack Summer Season Finals. I'm now in charge. I'm the host. I'm the host now. If I had to guess as to what INnoVation and Bunny are talking about in the in-game lobby, I would guess that they're talking about Protoss. And we have our last best of 5. In the top left of Lightshade, it is Kaizi's INnoVation. In the bottom right, you have the Blue Terran Team Envy's Bunny. So it might be a bit late for this, but since some people, more than one, has pointed this out or asked, it's these are the GSL play-ins. I have never before, outside of these GSL play-ins, had to put GSL in my title. I've never done any GSL VOD reviews. I've never cast the GSL qualifiers. There is a reason that it says GSL. And all you gotta do is just just look at the players, look at the scenario. Some of you might not be aware of the actual, I guess, construction of this tournament, though, so that's fair enough, but... I think if you just Google GSL play-ins, you can figure out what the title means. But that's sometimes asking too much. Sometimes. So, to give you guys the rundown again, as this is going to be determining the last player to make it through. GSL play-ins, top 8 of GSL don't make it through to the summer season finals. Top 6 make it through. So how do you determine the guys 4 through 8? Those 4 players. Well, typically you'd have 2 best of 5s. You'd have INnoVation versus Bunny and Zest versus Hurricane, or something along those lines. But Hurricane actually forfeited his spot. Don't know why. Is pretty odd. I hope he's not retiring, because he's doing decently enough. But, you know, who knows what's in his head. So instead of, like, having some weird other scenario where they grab more players, which would just be not good, they instead just make it that the remaining players play a round robin, which makes sense. If there is a tie by the end of this round robin, then they would do another best of 3 to determine who actually wins. But there shouldn't be a tie. Zest was able to 2-0. If Zest had also lost a series, then we talk about ties. So hopefully that covers it. Zest is already through. He won 2 series. He's a true beast. And now we get to see who actually makes it in second. And unfortunately, this poor third player, whoever it is between the two, doesn't get the chance to play in the season finals. So there you go. It might seem a little bit odd when you compare it to the rest of the world and the way their tournaments work, because the rest of the world has, like, coordination amongst each other. So the next 3 weeks, really, DreamHack starts next week. The next 3 weeks are going to be all about all of the regions outside of Korea, determining their group, determining their bracket, determining their champion. And then those people go into the season finals. But GSL's already happened, so it always looks a little bit funky. Raven to Raven, it's TVT. They both expanded, so, you know, we're waiting. We're waiting. The intricacies of early game TVT, they exist. There's a couple of different things happening, you know. Bunny made a cyclone, INnoVation went right into tanks. But, I don't know. Kind of explain GSL first and foremost. Unfortunately, despite that slight difference, there really has not been much else happening in the game. That slight difference is really just Bunny having a better defensive setup for the first 5 minutes, but then as the game goes on, as TVT goes on, you'd want more tanks than you'd want a Cyclone or 2 Cyclones. The Cyclone has a chance of helping for the first push or the first defense, but it's certainly not guaranteed the way that a tank is often guaranteed to support you. And third command center usually comes down for both players at this point. So INnoVation actually is the first to really change things up. Third CC is definitely the standard way to TVT. We do expect TVT to be a matchup that goes to 3 bases, and then sometimes the first push off of that third base is how we determine who's the victor, but it's usually a third CC. Now INnoVation will eventually get one. It's just that prioritizing the additional barracks is a choice. He will have more Marines. He will have much faster stim. But he won't have the economy. I wish I could say that I like this better, because I like the idea of being able to take TVT into your control. Just like I wish a 2-on-1 opener was actually really good in this matchup. But there's a reason that it's the rarer of the builds. Occasionally you do see a 2-on-1. Maybe like Bien would try it out, but it's typically not that great. And then you do occasionally see someone push off that third CC like INnoVation is doing, but it's also just typically not that great. The way that the Terrans have figured out TVT and how to set up their tanks, how to use their ravens, has really made breaking them with an attempted like earlier break kind of difficult to do. But I will say this, if Bunny were to actually push in... okay, I think he realized. I don't know if he realized that the INnoVation doesn't have a third CC or he just wanted to deal with the Reapers, but either way, I think it's a good thing that he pulled back. Because the one thing that could happen for Bunny, if he pushes in INnoVation, who has Stim, who has a lot more Marines, by pushing into INnoVation, he's giving INnoVation the chance to get a concave and chase Bunny's army down, because Bunny's army is not going to be able to escape. So it's really important that Bunny goes back on the defensive. I think he realizes now, got a couple of units, I think he got a scan on top of the army. He knows that that is someone who has delayed his third CC in exchange for a lot more Marines. Can Marines actually do it? If they find tanks not sieged up, they absolutely can. Bunny might have already fucked up. Might just be the case. Actually gonna get his tanks sieged up in the nick of time. The Raven of INnoVation is already, oh no, not quite died, but it already used all its auto turrets. An interference matrix right here could have allowed the Marines to slip into the natural, and that would have been bad news. As it is, I don't think Bunny being in this particular position is good news. Like, it's great he didn't die, but, oh no, he even gets scanned exact wrong time. It's great that he didn't die, but he is dying. It's a bit of a grim situation. INnoVation's build now looking tons better than I think it usually does. And there is a third CC he's grabbing on location behind it. Bunny has his 3 bases mining. He even still has a couple more SCVs, but he does not have a very strong army. Combat shields is done. Anti-air missile is not going to be as effective. Bunny just doesn't have enough units. His tanks get broken. The Liberators don't do anything. GG. INnoVation, with more of a 2-base build, clobbers Bunny, who I think needs to respect that a little bit more. Like, it's really hard until you have your own number of Marines that can kind of respond to have 4 tanks in always the right position. So sometimes we even see people actually just like pick up their third and hold off on it. They say like, well, maybe when I have Stim, maybe if I have 20 Marines, maybe if I know where his army is, then they'll take the third CC. But Bunny tried to get away with it while also holding, and it's clearly didn't work. Why did Hurricane forfeit? I don't think anyone knows. They haven't told us anyways. You're gonna have to learn Korean and ask Hurricane yourself. I don't know how you'd find him. I don't think he streams. I think he has streamed, but not like a lot. Oh yeah, I gotta start. I'm in charge. I've already forgotten. Romanticide for game 2. INnoVation is starting things off really well. That was a very, very confident looking engagement. I'm afraid that with it, Bunny is kind of just broken mentally. But, I mean, he's not the most... what what's the word I'm looking for? Is fortitude. His mental fortitude isn't the highest on those little like stars, like the player stars and those team matches, whatever they call them, like player hexagons or something like that. Mental fortitude isn't the highest for Bunny, but you know, as a pro gamer, he shouldn't be falling super easily to his own doubts. I want to give him the chance to come back, but after being kind of brutally murdered by Zest in a best of 5 and then losing the second series right off the bat, the first game, it'd be tough to recover. He needs a victory. He needs an early game victory. Bottom right, it is Bunny. Top left, romanticide, it is INnoVation. Get a little bit of momentum growing. Get his morale up. Maybe. I mean, to be perfectly frank, I did talk about this earlier on, INnoVation and Zest have been my favorite players for years. But not to the point that I'm a die-hard, rabid. If they're not in the tournament, I stop watching, which has actually been the case for some other players in the past. Maybe my passion has disappeared, or maybe I'm just more mature, but back in the day, if Jaedong would bombed out of a tournament, it was like, this tournament's not worth watching. It sucks. So I really want to give Bunny credit, and I want to see him do well, and if he takes a TVT, then like I'm not going to hold it against him for defeating INnoVation. But it just seems like it's already a bit of a bummer. Bummer day for Bunny. Both of them starting off with a factory expands. They both have taken off of gas. Yep, factory expand. INnoVation. I don't know if he's going to go for that 2-base thing again. It was so effective that I could see that it actually, I could see it being used again. Usually I wouldn't. But it was really effective. It was really good. Romanticide's a very different map though, just like at the base of it. Bunny shouldn't have died as quickly as he did. And then the map isn't really as conducive to it either. Romanticide is more defenses hit up on 3 bases than Lightshade. Lightshade has a way to defend 3 bases, absolutely, but it's still not the same kind of high ground, shared high ground section that Romanticide has with the 2 chokes. Tank's doing wonderfully here. It's not really the same. So that alone, I think, is the reason why INnoVation would not do it. INnoVation is going for a Hellion, Widow Mine, and then Bunny's actually going to be outing on the Tech Lab ASAP. The Widow Mine from INnoVation would be very useful if Bunny was actually going to do like a triple Reaper Hellion attack, but since that is not on the way, the Widow Mine might not actually contribute a whole lot. Might kill a Reaper, might kill a Marine. Creates a small country, just wander around until you find him. I mean, you're not wrong. Comparatively, it is a small country. Walking around type of country? I don't know about that. You're gonna have to find like some island out in the middle of nowhere that's technically a country before you can just walk around and find your friends. Alright, okay, Widow Mine. Okay, Widow Mine. Come on, Widow Mine. Do a thing, do a thing, do a thing. Nice. Good thing. Nice last second split to at least only get the Reaper, the Hellion kill. Reapers didn't take extra damage, but the Reapers, well, they are going to try and bust up here. Oh my goodness, they actually did. Huh. They were very injured. And they still barely survived, taking out all of INnoVation's early game units, but INnoVation already having a decent number of Marines. Shouldn't be feeling too scared quite yet. Bunny has transported over another couple of Marines. Another Cyclone comes up here, but the tank is sieged up. INnoVation skipping his own Cyclone. You know, delaying his tank a little bit by the Hellion Widow Mine opener, but then not going for a Cyclone after that. This tank being this well-timed, really important. Raven isn't going to come forward. It's actually going to look to help the tank more so and get repaired up. So that was maybe an opportunity for the medevac. SCV's support, however, only 2 of them go down. So far, it's an okay hold for INnoVation. But Bunny still has a lot going for him. This is actually exactly the type of start that I think Bunny needs. He's not just getting damage done, ferrying over his Cyclones as well, forcing the tank to siege up in the main base, but he's also grabbing a third CC on location behind it. And that is the really beautiful thing about this type of aggression, is that you're in total control. There's no way the defending player has got like a medevac out flying around as well, because you know they got a Raven, you know they're producing the barracks, you're getting some scouting done. And even if it was their own medevac about to hit your main, it's not like you're entirely without production. So Bunny's really taking control here. Third CC is almost done. INnoVation, one of the reasons he doesn't have a third CC finishing is that he didn't go for one. I mean, that's pretty obvious. But that is also, again, noteworthy. INnoVation's trying to two-base it. He's going to have the faster stim, the faster upgrade. He's going to have more Marines. But because Bunny gets such a nice opener, he does a little bit of damage, he pressures INnoVation a little bit, his third CC is just like seamlessly on location. I actually give him a good chance to defend against this, even when trying to defend his third CC this time around. But we have to wait and see what that stim looks like. Bunny's he still has to be in a very good position. He has to try and see where his opponent's coming from, have his tanks appropriately split, have whatever Marines he can muster up, actually trying to protect them. Vikings hopefully in the right location. I honestly would not mind if a sensor tower came down. Bunny, though, actually maybe focusing a little bit too much on things that he should be doing, misses a supply depot and is now severely supply blocked. I love this sensor tower. I'm glad to see it come down. Your opponent did not have a third CC, you didn't cancel it, they just didn't get it. It's time to build some scout units, some scouting units. Send out Marines, get a sensor tower, put your Vikings in a position to guard against the drops. Yep. All that good stuff. A missile turret's even on the way, but it's not done. And this is kind of an anti-timing INnoVation. He's going to be able to slip on past, scans and sees not much guarding the main, of course, but not much in the natural either, and just boost into the main. Nothing to defend. Bunny, this felt like a game that could have gone well had he stopped something exactly like this, but his Vikings weren't in the right position. They come over now to support, but the Marines can try and jump on top of them. One Raven already going down. And then what about that third CC? Oh no, it's going to get broken. Oh my gosh, INnoVation. Just murders him. Just makes it look like there was no possible way of Bunny holding whatsoever. Looks foolish for trying again. Now Bunny has got a little drop denying his third CC, for at least for now. I don't think it'll actually get a cancel. It's not enough Marines. But it doesn't matter. I mean, it's the least he could do. Because right now, he's not mining on his third base. He's the one that's contained. And he doesn't actually get the cancel on the third CC. I lived in Seoul for a while. I mean, I didn't mean to talk about... You know what, give it a second. INnoVation's dropping to the main base. Wasn't as successful as he was hoping for. Lots of carcasses. Both sides losing a decent number of Marines. But INnoVation's still holding on to the contain, at least for now. And a drop's going to try and come down and take care of it. Auto turret before the Raven dies. Oh, the drop gets taken out. INnoVation's reinforcements. Perfectly timed. And this game is still a bit interesting. Bunny is not just straight up died, but he still isn't mining off his third CC, whereas INnoVation is finishing the orbital, mining off of it, getting his sensor tower, and just taking control of this game. Yeah, we weren't talking about how accessible and walkable a country was. We were talking about how big a country was. Of course, I've been to Seoul. I've been to Korea as well. But despite how small and walkable Seoul is, you're not going to walk around and find your friends. You're not going to be like 2 steps to the end of the island. Oh shit, there you are, Bob. Another double drop in the main. INnoVation, this time going to be very successful. Just the amount of carnage he's already dealt. Then he's going to try and jump on top of the tank. He grabs that, grabs the SCVs. Bunny has a little drop that INnoVation didn't really have the means to deal with. Didn't have a lot of Marines from the get-go, so he pulls very safely, waits for Marines to bulk up. But now he does. Now he has something to defend it, so he's going to try. But Bunny is not just engaging with a small little drop. He's engaging with the entire army. INnoVation now realizing it accidentally runs face first into a tank blast. Saves that tank because he realizes this is going to be a potential base race, but then probably should have just gone to the main base. Maybe not. Maybe he can hold the third. He's going to try pulling the SCVs. Another tank comes forward for INnoVation, but his Marines are getting blasted apart, and that is not quite going to cut it. INnoVation trying to defend this third base and might have just given up all the leads he had. Actually, INnoVation still up 15 workers, so never mind. Not only got 15 workers, INnoVation also actually kills Bunny's third. Oh, what's it doing over there? And now Bunny is entirely all in. He knows it. He's going to try and break this, which maybe if the auto turrets come down a bit sooner, he could have broken it. But this is just shy of really being a break. I mean, he's going to clean it up, but it wasn't super convincing. Not as convincing as it could have been. If it was super good, if the auto turrets came down first and foremost, or interference matrix, what have you, and the concave was good, maybe Bunny can take that out and immediately counterattack with, you know, the 20 army supply, make that a 30 army supply lead. But now it wasn't really that pretty. It's a 20 army supply lead, and he has to go across the map. INnoVation should be able to fill the gap in that time. And Bunny is still pretty all in. He lifts his main command center to replace his third. No money for upgrades, so that is the ticking timer there. INnoVation's 2-2, only like 20% done, so it's not going to be a problem yet. Bunny's still having a army supply lead, but it's getting less and less of a lead as the time goes on. Vikings and a missile turret already on the left side. INnoVation scans the army. He's onto his tricks. Bunny could try and just wait that out and then try and go in. Hope that INnoVation wasn't responding correctly. That would be an awfully dangerous thing to do. INnoVation knows that what he's got to do is be in the right position. So he's constantly scouting. He's got double sensor tower, and that should do it. The army supply has been bridged. Now it's like a 6 army supply difference. Medevac's flying to the natural. Now the tanks have opened up a little bit, but is it going to be enough? Tanks the low ground for Bunny kind of cover the Marines to a certain point. And I guess that point was at least canceling +2 armor. Also, the armory now in trouble. But INnoVation, I mean, with only +2 attack, is actually still pretty happy with this. I'm joking, don't take what I said seriously. I mean, I guess. I mean, I didn't think it was offensive in any way. I just thought it was very much so not the conversation. Should have put a kappa. INnoVation is now taking a pretty nice supply lead, but it is still mostly in those workers. Still up by 20. Now his main base could go float over to a 4th if he really needed to. He doesn't need to. He needs to just track Bunny's army, make sure that eventually he's going to have better upgrades. He does actually right now. 2-1 finishes up. And not to run face first into tanks that are already sieged. And eventually INnoVation will be able to win this out. But TVT, it's all about comebacks. Bunny could also try and play this as smart as possible, as patiently as possible, and actually expand. But the one thing that he can't really do a great job of catching up on are upgrades. Maybe with the canceled engineering bay, if he had been building his own and building his own 2-2, he could have caught up. But it's too late for that. Forced to once again engage in the natural, just taking very, very high risks for hopefully high reward. And it's been not a lot of reward, not enough reward. Even the backside being taken care of now, and that might be able to do it. Bunny not able to break the natural. He tried so hard. He's still trying, but it's not going to work out. INnoVation's just getting bigger in supply, bigger in upgrades. The army is not getting that concave, and Bunny has to entirely evacuate and tap out of the game. GG. And now Bunny is on his absolute last life. Can't, I unfortunately do not believe, guys. If you believe, put your hands together like spirit bomb style. Support Bunny. A gray meme face. Exactly. That's how you type it in. Gray face, no space. So quick, so fast. Korean players. Your APM's too high. We're on Oxide for Bunny's last chance. In the bottom left, down 0-2. He is Bunny. In the top right, it is INnoVation. Looking to secure his spot in the summer season finals, which is a little down the road. It's going to be in approximately 4 weeks. So next week is the start of DreamHack with the groups, which unfortunately I can't be a part of. I will be out of town. But then we have 3 weeks of that. The 4th week has been historically the season finals. But with things looking better and better, I guess mostly worldwide, in, well, let's say North America and Europe, there's a chance that it'll actually be an offline situation. And in which case things might change scheduling wise. Maybe it won't just be back to back to back to back weeks, right? Maybe there'll be a little bit of a gap. Maybe they'll make it a 3-day event instead of like it used to be a 5-day event. I mean, who knows? Because that is still at least a month out. But I'd be really excited if it was. Really excited. If it was just us in studio. I'd be there in a split second. All right, TVT, Bunny. I mean, he actually showed a lot of heart in that last game. This guy is not just rolling over and dying. Being like, well, guess I'm 0-4 and now he's 0-5 today. Like, I guess I'm dead. He really tried to make that last game work. Despite the, really, again, the first couple of minutes not going so well for him. Well, the first couple of minutes actually did, but the first attack that INnoVation did once again kind of brutalized Bunny. But he was kind of on his road to recovery. He was doing a good job getting some jabs in there as well while he was being punched. And it could have maybe evened out if he had saved his 3rd CC. It's a big maybe though, because INnoVation's tank positioning around that 3rd CC was really strong, so any attempt for Bunny to break it would have been really nasty. It might not have worked. But, you know, losing the 3rd CC, that's an easy call to make. You know you're really screwed. You know you gotta do something extreme in return. And he tried. Gosh darn it, he tried. And if INnoVation wasn't so good, I think, in that particular defensive style, he didn't identify the scenario so damn well, Bunny could have done something. But INnoVation knew exactly how that was going to go down. Lots of scouting, lots of sensor towers, missile turrets coming up. More would not have been totally uncalled for, just to make sure you can cover all your bases. And even with all that intel and scouting and INnoVation's own economy doing, you know, mostly fine, it still ended up looking close. It was still one of those, it could have been nail-bitingly close if a drop was a little more successful. If INnoVation's army was a little more out of position. So, another props to Bunny. He's really trying to play this out, but he's on his last life. And this Widowmine, doing more so what you would expect Widowmine to do, but INnoVation, more importantly than the Widowmine, has his own set of Reapers and Hellion. Singular Hellion, but just enough to make this work. Bunny's opener falls, unfortunately. It just falls. If you don't stop on the Widowmine, if you go for a Hellion into a tech lab and there's a Widowmine, you're still building the Cyclone, or the tank, or whatever you're building. And those Reapers and Hellions, plural, if one doesn't die, from Bunny can actually do a fair amount of damage. Can clean up the army and get a couple SCV kills, hopefully. But the Widowmine trading out for even just one Hellion kind of gives you that necessary initial boost. Hopefully the rest of the micro kind of goes your way, and it did. INnoVation comes out ahead in the army supply. It's a very slight difference. what happens in a game like this. But since we're talking a lot about Bunny's mentality, it's one of those like, is he happy with how that went down? Is that good enough? Is he so numb to TVT openers? He's like, it doesn't matter, I don't care. Trying to do a little bit of pressure. Reaper hops up on the high ground. Cyclone locks onto a tech lab. Could have been cool. Could have been cool. But INnoVation was over it. He was not going to let that happen. INnoVation Cyclone also in a nice defensive position against any Raven harassment. More than we're expecting like a Liberator or something. But if the Raven just gets shift queued around the map willy-nilly, then the Cyclone's in a great position. With both of them getting a Cyclone, we actually have the most identical builds so far. Third CC's coming down for both players too, so yeah, alright then. Alright. This is the real standard of TVT. When this fast third CC comes down when they both have 2 Ravens. They both go into Vikings. Oh yeah. That's the totally identical TVT we all know and love. So with this, that means someone's gonna push, someone's gonna defend. Who has the better micro? Last couple of games haven't really been so much on the micro front. So I can't say 100% who does have the better micro, but so far, right here, right now with INnoVation, Bunny didn't escape with a Cyclone while he could, and while that sometimes doesn't help when we talk about tanks, it was something. Maybe it gets a lock on, right? Let's see what INnoVation Cyclone can do. Doesn't see Bunny's attempted... Oh, no, the Viking does, though. Can't do that anymore. You're too far away to actually initiate a base race, so Bunny is forced to retreat back home, but now awkwardly unloading while INnoVation just pushes into the natural. Bunny, he was going to take a huge risk. He was getting into the medevacs, not more Vikings. He was going to go for a drop, but it gets found out. So the drop can't happen, at least not now it can't happen, but the defense is fine. He's able to stop the Terran army, well, the opposing Terran army anyways, from actually getting into the natural. And as such, still has his own army, still has a medevac that could do at least 1 drop. Just be a little bit of a little pesky drop somewhere. It could happen. And now it's going to be used as a scout. It's just fine enough. INnoVation does scan Bunny's army, which... Whenever you see a scan, regardless of your race, be prepared to defend where that scan just happened. You know, that's fair. It's a fair call. But actually, I think INnoVation is just like, is he going to move out? Does he use his medevac? So now even another scan coming in. He wants to take control over the scenario, wants to actually force Bunny to be in the defensive and not let him slip past him and force an awkward base race. INnoVation is going to now go ahead and go back home. He was kind of starting to posture like he was going to take care of the third or stop it from coming down, but realizing perhaps that would be a bit too ambitious. If he's over here defending, not even... The third's not even taken over here, so if he's over here doing nothing, and Bunny's pushing to the right, it'd be a problem. Bunny's not only pushing to the right, he's also expanding to the right, which is very odd. Terran players like this triangle pattern that INnoVation has. It's not potentially the biggest deal. It really depends on how their attack paths go and where the armies are headed, but it is a bit different. Bunny has his tiny little drop, just a little something, trying to get set up. Just takes the high ground for now. Very comfortable in the knowledge that if INnoVation tried to push out into him, he wouldn't even have to pay attention. 6 tanks would obliterate INnoVation's army if it went up this ramp, so... The only thing he has to pay attention to is his drop, and then, yes, make sure that he's not going to get totally bamboozled and the army isn't coming in from this direction. Which, you know, Bunny's drop is currently scouting that. Not only is Bunny's drop scouting INnoVation's potential army movements, it's also taken away INnoVation's vision. So INnoVation's not really sure where the army could come. Well, he's kind of sure where the army could come in. The center tower is just barely not seeing this army. But that is a good amount of warning if Bunny were to commit on that third base. So INnoVation really just has to worry about maybe a big drop, which, yeah, that's not a Vikings. No drop would ever get past that. Or over to the left. So it's really about of scouting. Bunny is going to try and just dive in. He scans ahead, sees that the tanks are sieged, but there's not much protecting those tanks. Auto turrets come down, however, and that might be enough. INnoVation can actually come back with the rest of his army, siege up the rest of his tanks, and take the fight around his third. It's a messy fight, absolutely, as INnoVation's tanks get taken down with the interference matrix, but he does win the Viking War. INnoVation coming out of that battle overall ahead, about 15 supply. Oh, and it accidentally chases. I think that 13 supply. And he's up a couple of workers, but I think most importantly, with that battle being said and done, INnoVation started his 2-2. His 2-2-1 even. And Bunny has not started any upgrades. He doesn't even have an armory. I mean, last game, it was an unintentional all-in. This time around, he's just forcing himself into a more brutal position by slipping on the armory timing. It's finally coming down now, but that 2-2 for INnoVation will be over halfway done before Bunny starts his own. That's a very big deal, but also a very big deal is Medivac's dropping on top of tanks. INnoVation, he does, oh my god, he loses actually 3. I think that was 3 tanks. That Medivac drop was amazing. And this Liberator is going to be able to find another tank. INnoVation, his supply is still all right, but he's down to 2 tanks to 9. The command center is forced to lift off, and he just needs to take position elsewhere. Just pull the SCVs instead. Bunny has so many tanks, but they are left alone. Maybe a good enough concave to take it out. He's going to try. Of course, forcing to a choke eventually. That's just how Oxide's going to work out. Every last tank does go down, but Bunny's reinforcements are going to come in at the exact right time. And INnoVation didn't quite break that as much as he was hoping. As hard as he was hoping to. He really, I mean, maybe a couple more units off to the left and would have been a bit better. But he loses 25 SCVs. His third CC is still burning. Hello? There we go. Okay, it's burning, but it is going to be safe. And now his 4th command center is found out. INnoVation needs his 4th command center, but Bunny's going to grab it for free. Bunny starting the comeback right here, right now. Upgrades be damned. INnoVation. I mean, he could make the comeback happen. It is certainly possible. And that 2-2 is finished. Bunny's got a long way to go before he's matching INnoVation's Marines again. But Bunny's 4th is well on the way. If INnoVation invested 400 minerals right now, it might not be the biggest economical difference, but it would lend to a bigger army difference. And that's kind of scary. So INnoVation is going to have to turtle for a little while longer, get to a more comfortable army supply, and then think about taking a 4th base, either as his main orbital or actually building a new command center. I think INnoVation has realized his upgrade advantage. He's probably clicking on Bunny's upgrades the entire time. So he is going to focus a lot of his limited resources on 3-3. And I do like that call. That's not something that you can make up for as a Terran player. You don't have Chrono Boost to kind of make up for things that you sacrificed in the past, right? So you're going to have a very big upgrade lead. Hopefully you'll also be maxed out. And when you're both at 200 supply, it's going to make up things a lot more even. You might not have a bank. You might not have a second army because your economy's poopy. But you can take a really good fight. And INnoVation's now even sharking around for it at only around 150 supply. Or upgrades that good? Maybe. But he's not going to have upgrade leads anymore. Bunny is closing in on his 2-2. INnoVation just needs to, now just have his tanks sieged up. And then he can hold a line. That is good enough. Their army supplies have actually evened out. It's just that Bunny has more SCVs. He's going to have a bigger bank. He's going to be able to transition into the starports a lot easier. But this is also why it's important for INnoVation to actually not just completely turtle. If Bunny were to just throw Marine and tank at him while INnoVation's turtling, then fair enough. INnoVation can hold. But Bunny was going to adapt. He was going to move on. And actually, this double drop, this triple drop, in fact, might just screw up all of INnoVation's plans anyway. INnoVation did not have enough to hold on. He's forced to retreat with a lot of his Marines. Now, his tank line is still sieged up. But this was pretty nice. And Bunny looks like he might even be able to escape, so that was pretty nice. If that could have happened as well as maybe a bus at the front, and by a bust, I mean just like if Bunny could get to enough Vikings, add on a Liberator, he would be able to push INnoVation back. But it doesn't happen. The drop has not been quite cleaned up. INnoVation just seconds late with the Marines trying to respond. And Bunny, I mean, he's got a really big supply lead now, up 20 supply. Isn't going to be breaking this before 3-3 is done. So INnoVation once again with the upgrade. Oh, and actually it's INnoVation who brings in Liberators much faster. Bunny should be getting to this point soon. Bunny's got the additional starports. Liberators, I think they know that their time will be up very soon. They're going to try their best to actually make this work. And Bunny, not unsieging his tanks, forced to keep them sieged. As INnoVation goes for the break, doesn't really end up being a break. The tanks were killed. They did some damage on top of INnoVation's Marines, but there's still more tanks behind that. Bunny still trying to be as patient as possible, trying to make the right decisions, as it is currently stressful. In 30 seconds, it really shouldn't be. He is finally taking control of the air, so the Liberators aren't as big of a threat as they once were, but are there enough tanks in the natural? I think there are. Even that third tank starting to help out. INnoVation trying to just inch forward, but is bleeding off units every single time, whereas Bunny still has his production, still has 4 bases mining. INnoVation even bringing some SCVs forward for the repair. Didn't even notice. That is a humongous counter. INnoVation not prepared for that at all. Was hoping that Bunny was going to focus all on the defense, and Bunny was like, you know what? The hell with that. I'm going to leave my tanks at home. I'm going to build up my Viking count, and I'm going to go for kind of a base race. Oh, I forgot this was the orbital. Ooh, INnoVation actually finding an opportunity to get into his opponent's economy. Bunny could have maybe continued on to the main base if he had immediately picked up and dropped, but decides to actually come back and goes for the big surround, and that might just be good enough. Bunny still with an amazing army supply, up 50. He's about to get a huge surround on INnoVation. There's nothing INnoVation can do about it. Even pulling the SCVs as +3 finishes. Bunny is not going to go down without a fight. He is going to get a point on the board finally. Very exciting news for Bunny. He absolutely needed this game. You don't want to go to bed after getting 0-6'd, all right? Maybe he doesn't win the series, but at least he got a game here. I'm really surprised INnoVation doesn't tap out. I mean, he knows about the 4th. It's great that he killed a 3rd, but... You see that army scanning each other, you know how screwed you are. And there it is. There it is. GG Bunny. He's got a point on the board. Oh my goodness. Beep boop. I paid attention this time, guys. So it's still Bunny's last life. And that was not an easy game for him. In fact, at one point, it looked very much like INnoVation was still going to take the game because INnoVation's upgrades were so much farther ahead. But on the break, on Bunny's siege up around INnoVation's 3rd, that was just so many tanks. If there's 2 less tanks, I don't know if INnoVation is reeling so much and forced to attack so much, right? Forced to think so hard and long about the defense of that he doesn't actually get over to the left side to defend his 4th base. So that 4th base lives, and that right there is just the biggest difference. INnoVation might have lost 25 SCVs, but 4 bases, meh. It's fine. It's fine. But the SCVs plus the base loss, plus, of course, he did trade out a lot of army units. His tank count was already demolished before he engaged. That was the whole problem to start things off with. That was way too much. INnoVation's attempt to attack and pretty much all in was not silly. Turtling could have maybe also been a choice, but since Bunny would eventually have added on the starports, would have eventually gone into Viking Raven or Viking Liberator, INnoVation knows that taking control of the game was more so the better option. And if Bunny had just been totally in his own head, if Bunny had just been like, oh shit, like, oh, tanks are so difficult, TVT, why do you like this, why? And just stayed at home and done nothing else, then there is a chance that INnoVation's push actually works. But Bunny actually still able to keep a level head despite all the losses, despite being still in a very stressful TVT, and did the right things. So can he do it again on 2,000 atmospheres? I'd like to believe. I think that was actually a very promising game for Bunny. Bunnies always bounce back. I like it. I like it. You know, sometimes though, bunnies, they bounce one way on the highway, they bounce another way on the highway. There's still like a billion cars coming. You know what I'm saying? You get what I'm putting down? Can you visualize the picture that I'm making here? Yeah. Bunny's still in a very dangerous scenario. He's still on a highway. He still isn't out to the lush green fields of grass. Some similar openers. Bunny is going to play more defensively with this bunker coming down. That's the difference so far. You can go for a second Reaper either, but with the Marine on the high ground might be enough. Well, not like this, Bunny. Not like this. Not like this, Bunny. It's one Reaper. It's not going to kill him, but it just kind of sucks that he has to deal with it. There we go. Good mass repair on that one SCV, too. Alien pops out, pushes the Reaper away. There really wasn't very much that INnoVation could have done. Even if INnoVation was one basing, I mean, the bunker is out in the natural. Cyclone would have eventually been out. Well, not in this case. He goes for a tank first. But INnoVation is not completely one basing, because that's pretty rare in TVT. Factory expands and one rack expands. Those are the ways to play. I was gonna say, without any add-on to the starport, we could have had Bunny do the one base, or not the one base, the one tank drop. But it's actually a Viking coming out first, so this might be more of just a direct push. Has he seen the medevac of INnoVation? Does he just know that INnoVation is going to do the same thing? Well, all right then. Well, INnoVation is doing what I was talking about. He's gotten a medevac, he's gotten a tank, he's going for a drop. Now, this actually isn't that powerful if you just plant your tank sieged in a natural or something. If the tank's going to siege, it has to be abusing some type of terrain. And if it's not going to do that, then it might as well just stay into regular unsiege GPS mode. So I actually like how INnoVation's playing this one out. Bunny could have done the same thing with his own medevac, but actually got a starport. Or shit, got a Viking with a starport. And that is going to help push it back, but the drop has already done some damage. It kills 3 SCVs, but more importantly, it kills the 3rd gas geyser. Which, you know, you don't usually really focus on. Sometimes when these extractors or assimilators or refineries go down, it's like the 6th refinery. And you're like, meh. I mean, that sucks. It is going to interrupt your macro, but actually, I think for the 3rd gas in TVT, that is especially important. Being denied that or having that killed is actually really bothersome. Terrans aren't as gas heavy as the other races, especially if, you know, you're going to go for mass High Templar or you're going to go for mass Mutas. But as far as the first 7-8 minutes of the game, they kind of are. Kind of similar. They need that gas. They have all this technology. Look at all this technology. It's expansive. So I like the INnoVation's drop. And plus, it's still alive. So it just, you know, goes back home, pairs up, now he's gonna do a push. Bunny's scan was no doubt looking for the third CC and does manage to find it. Also sees that the starport is in fact producing Vikings. If it's on a reactor this quickly, it's probably Vikings. Probably. Bunny did add on 2 medevacs last game, so it's not 100%. And Bunny's got to try and find where the army is. The Hellion is about to, and might even get a good glimpse as to what the army is encompassed with. Yep. Got a really good scout on that army. Scan from INnoVation, no doubt also wanting to see the third command center, yes or no, as well as the starport and reactor, yes or no. Again, Bunny has opted to go for the 2 medevacs, which puts him in a difficult position. Does he do the drop? This is like the same thing from last game. Does he do the drop and try to defend with whatever's left over back at home? Or does he just defend? Last time it was so awkwardly timed that he was forced to use his medevacs to drop and defend. But now the timing's a bit different. INnoVation isn't already up in his face. So maybe he could do the drop. But despite not being scanned, the medevacs are just staying at home. Not gonna go for it. And he's actually gonna be the one to push. Not really pushing, actually, just taking his third CC. It's INnoVation. He can now push into the third CC. He's been chilling out here long enough. The third CC has almost come to him. And he still has that drop over to the right side. I think it's been set up for a little while. Just a single drop of 8 Marines, but Stim is finishing up, so they can definitely tear down an SCV line. Nothing here to defend so far. A couple of Vikings gonna look to at least take out the medevac. But then also the third CC is under fire. This is dangerous stuff. I like Bunny's decision right now. He's in a really difficult place. He's already lost SCVs. He's already lost control of his third CC, so just give up complete control of it and try and live another day. But are you going to be able to live at all? Interference just comes down on Bunny's 1 tank, and both tanks get obliterated. INnoVation's army is just so damn powerful when sieged. If Bunny had 30 Marines getting into a concave here, maybe the tanks don't hold up against that. But sieged up with the choke on their side, INnoVation's army is so powerful. He still has the Viking control. His Ravens are still alive. Bunny is forced to make some very difficult decisions as he once again finds himself lacking a third command center. He's going to go across the map with a decent number of Marines, not super impressive. At least they have combat shields over INnoVation's army, and they are going to find a kind of undefended third CC, so now is the time to shine. Bunny's going to do a lot with like 16 Marines. He's going to find the tank, he's going to find the Vikings, and he's going to find a lot of SCVs in the third. Can he find the third itself? Hopefully not. INnoVation should be able to lift that and actually get away. That would have been a really big mistake if INnoVation had not responded quickly. And there you have it. Command Center gets saved. High ground is where INnoVation's going to make his stand here. And I don't think that Bunny's army can do much about that, especially as it takes a shot to the face and INnoVation's own combat shield finally finishes. INnoVation hasn't really had to pay so much attention to their front lines, but he has been slowly siege hopping forward while also defending back at home. A split attention could have been catastrophic for either person, but they've actually been able to both attack and defend. It's just that Bunny already lost his third CC. So Bunny's down 13 workers, down a CC, down 30 army supply. Wait, Bunny didn't have combat shields. I'm gonna blame that on the fact that I got up really early. I swear to God, I saw combat shields on this Marine. So that's a big problem then. Just kidding. Combat shields was never in play here for Bunny. Not that it would have helped this engagement. INnoVation will actually go ahead and take this series 3-1, despite Bunny's best efforts. And that's gonna be it. GG. Well played. INnoVation and Zest are the 5th and 6th players to participate in the season finals. Or poor Bunny, well, still a round of 8 GSL performance for him. Is just going to be performing in the GSL.